I don't know how long I've been down here. The walls of the catacombs are cold, and the air is thick with the smell of damp earth and decay. I try to focus on the rhythm of my breathing, but every exhale seems to echo through the narrow tunnels, mocking the very idea of calm. It wasn't supposed to be like this. It was supposed to be an adventure, a nighttime dare with some friends after too much wine and too many jokes about being brave enough to explore the ancient Parisian catacombs. I didn't think I'd end up alone, lost, and terrified. It started out lighthearted. We laughed as we descended into the darkness, the lights from our phones casting strange shadows against the stone walls lined with bones. Thousands of skeletons, their hollow eyes watching us, guarding this ancient labyrinth of death. There was something unnerving about it, but we brushed it off with nervous jokes and exaggerated bravado. At first, we stuck together. We were careful to remember the way we came, marking the walls with small scratches, even leaving behind empty bottles as makeshift breadcrumbs. But as we went deeper, the walls seemed to shift, or maybe it was our perception, warped by the eerie stillness of the place. We came to a fork in the tunnels, and in the spirit of adventure, decided to split up, just for a few minutes. Just to see if either path led somewhere more interesting, we said. It was a stupid idea. I know that now. I took the left path, alone, my footsteps muffled by the layer of dust on the floor. The others went right, and I expected us to regroup within minutes, laughing at how we'd scared ourselves over nothing. But after a while, the tunnel I was in began to narrow, forcing me to hunch down as the ceiling grew lower. My phone's flashlight flickered, casting long, jagged shadows against the walls of bone. The deeper I went, the more oppressive the air became. It clung to my skin, thick and suffocating, making each breath feel like a struggle. I should have turned back then, but something compelled me to keep going. It wasn't curiosity, more like an unseen force pulling me forward, urging me deeper into the catacombs. My phone buzzed with a message from one of the others, but when I tried to check it, the signal was gone. No GPS, no service. I was truly alone. The silence down here is unlike anything I've ever experienced. It's not the kind of silence you get in the countryside, where the wind rustles through the trees, or even in a soundproof room. This is a silence that feels alive. It presses against you, fills your ears, until you start to imagine you can hear things. I kept turning my head, convinced there were footsteps behind me, just far enough away that I couldn't see their source when I turned around. I began to panic. I retraced my steps, or at least I thought I did, but the tunnel twisted in ways that didn't make sense. I found one of the bottles we had left as a marker, but it wasn't where it should have been. My scratches on the wall were gone, as if they'd never existed. It was like the catacombs had swallowed the signs of our passage, erasing all trace of us. My heart pounded in my chest, and the walls seemed to close in on me. I stumbled forward, desperate to find my friends, desperate to find a way out. I called out their names, but my voice sounded wrong, muted and hollow, swallowed by the endless dark. That's when I first heard it. A whisper, faint and distant, coming from the tunnel behind me. I froze, my blood turning to ice. It wasn't one of my friends. It couldn't be. The whisper wasn't human. I turned slowly, the light from my phone trembling as my hand shook. The tunnel was empty, but the whisper continued, soft and insistent, like a breeze that shouldn't exist in a place like this. It sounded almost like a voice, but the words were garbled, distorted, like something trying to speak a language it didn't know. I ran. The tunnel twisted and turned, and I barely kept my footing, tripping over loose stones and bones that scattered across the floor. The whisper followed me, growing louder, more urgent. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It was inside my head, filling my thoughts with static, with words that didn't make sense. I couldn't tell if I was running towards safety or deeper into the catacombs, but I didn't care. All I knew was that I had to get away. The tunnel opened into a larger chamber, and for a moment I allowed myself to hope. Maybe there was a way out from here, maybe my friends would be waiting for me. But the chamber wasn't empty. At first I didn't see it. My flashlight flickered again, casting long, uneven shadows across the room, and that's when I saw the figure. It stood at the far end of the chamber, partially obscured by the piles of bones that lined the walls. Tall and thin, its skin was pale, too pale, almost translucent. It didn't move, but I could feel it watching me. Its eyes, if it had any, were hidden beneath the shadow of its face, but I felt its gaze like a weight pressing down on me. The whispering grew louder. It was coming from the figure. It didn't speak with its mouth, it didn't need to. The words slithered into my mind, twisting my thoughts, filling me with a dread so profound that I couldn't breathe. My legs refused to move, rooted to the spot by terror. The figure took a step forward, its movements slow and deliberate, like it had all the time in the world. It didn't need to rush. It knew there was no way out for me. As it moved, the bones around it seemed to shift, almost as if they were alive, drawn to the creature's presence. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. My throat was tight, my mouth dry. The figure took another step and another, and with each one, the whispering grew louder, filling my head with its insidious chant. I didn't understand the words, but I didn't need to. I knew what they meant. I was never leaving this place. Finally, my legs responded, and I backed away, my heart racing. I turned and ran again, the narrow tunnel walls scraping my arms as I forced myself through them. I didn't care where I was going anymore, as long as it was away from that thing. But the whispering followed, echoing through the tunnels, growing louder and louder. I don't know how long I ran. Time doesn't seem to work down here the way it does on the surface. It feels like hours, but it could have been minutes. The tunnels all look the same, endless corridors of bones, twisting and turning in ways that make no sense. The air is so thick I can barely breathe, and every time I stop to catch my breath, I hear the whispering, always just behind me. I've tried to find my friends, but they're gone. Or maybe I'm the one who's gone, swallowed by the catacombs. I don't know anymore. My phone died hours ago, and the darkness is absolute. I can't even see my own hands in front of me. The whispering is louder now. It never stops. I hear it even when I cover my ears, even when I try to think of something else. It's in my head, crawling beneath my skin, sinking into my bones. I can feel it pulling at me, dragging me deeper into the dark. I don't know how much longer I can keep running. I'm exhausted, my legs trembling, my body weak. The catacombs seem to stretch on forever, an endless maze of death and darkness. But the worst part isn't the tunnels, or the bones, or even the whispering. The worst part is the feeling that I'm not alone. There's something down here with me, something that watches, that waits. It's been waiting for a long time, and now that I'm here, it's not going to let me leave. I can feel it getting closer. The air around me grows colder, and the walls seem to pulse, like the catacombs themselves are alive. I can't outrun it forever. I can hear its footsteps now, slow and deliberate, matching the rhythm of the whispers in my head. I've stopped running. There's no point. The catacombs have claimed me. Whatever that thing is, it's coming for me, and there's nowhere left to go. The whispering has become a roar, deafening, filling my thoughts, drowning out everything else. I can see it now, standing at the edge of the darkness, its pale, twisted form just barely visible. It's watching me, waiting. The whispering grows louder, and I know what it wants. It wants me. I close my eyes, and for the first time, I stop fighting. The darkness welcomes me,